Standing by. Good morning, Major. Unmute.
Okay, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for joining us. How's it going, Major?
Going good. It's good. Everything's good.
Okay, I guess we're done. Yeah, everything's good, guys. Cancel. Major, so are you guys doing allowing visitation there at DOC yet?
Not yet, sir. Again, our plan was at the end of April, at the end of this month, to start allowing, some visitation, probably immediate family. We're still working out the details, but hopefully by the end of the month, we'll have everything squared away.
What's the status on the incoming guys? Incoming is where friends, family of inmates and detainees, they're allowed to drop off packages. What? First, let's just start at the beginning. A major, like, what are family members, significant others, whatever? What are they allowed to drop off to inmates and detainees being housed at the Department of Corrections facility in Manila?
Well, Chris, there's a list of authorized items, but the items include personal hygiene, shampoo, soap, toothpaste, toothbrush, even masks. Some families don't mask, laundry soap, and then we allow some snack items, popcorn, the microwavable popcorn, and some other small stuff for the inmates. Uh, just to something else to eat other than just the prison food.
Mm. And so that's I know that you guys stood that up. What, like last month or something?
Yeah, and it's ongoing. Once a month, we have a schedule out, and I think we just finished up towards the end of March, and we'll begin doing it again. I think in about a week or two for second round again. Every month, every month.
Mm. What's the morale of the corrections officers like this time, Major?
Well, of course, it's been a long year, so of course, a lot of us are stressed. The wearing the mask and all the other restrictions of has been stressful on a lot of us. I guess it's been a year, so.
Yeah.
But we're doing well. We paid the overtime is pretty much up to date on overtime. COVID pay, they're getting paid, I believe, by this week. 3 or 4 pay periods of COVID pay.
Wow.
We weren't able to pay since November, but I believe once we pay this week, we'll be caught up till December.
What's the average on that, Major? So if it hasn't been paid from November, is it going to be paid retroactively?
Yeah. Like I said, we're getting caught up on all of that. The average officer maybe $200 to $300 extra pay period.
Mm.
So if we're 3 pay periods behind, they get paid, then it could be almost $1,000, give or take. Depends on their hourly rate.
Yeah.
It was 25% of your based on your hourly rate, 25% of that. So come February, it knocked down to 10%.
Right.
But we're still working on processing the remaining pay periods, and hopefully we'll have that squared away in the next few weeks.
What was the refresh my memory, Major? Why has there been such a long delay? And were you guys like recently added to the group that can get the COVID pay or something?
No, we were always at it. Again, with the process, it takes a long time. Just to key it in, the different process to account for it, because it's separate from your regular paycheck. So it requires a separate timesheet to calculate everything. Then it's got to be keyed into the system, and then there was identifying the funding, because we've been doing this since I think April of last year. Maybe.
Right.
We've identified some of the funding. Again, it's the CARES Act money.
Yeah.
We had to move some money around, and I think it was possibly over $400,000 to get where we're at now. Again, we're working on the remaining pay periods, but I believe where we were the only one that was kind of late getting it out. It just takes time, but it's getting there. And by this week, there should be some. It'll be direct deposit, so they need to check their account probably by this week. Whether they got it or not already.
Okay, so some $400,000 in COVID. Is this the COVID differential pay is being paid out retroactively from November to corrections officers at DOC?
Yeah, yes, sir.
And then from November up to what point will it be paid?
If I'm not mistaken, to the month of December.
Okay.
And then we've already been processing the January and February. So we're working on getting that out in the next few weeks too.
Right. So we covered the morale of the COs. What about the inmates and detainees, Major? What are you hearing?
Well, again, right now, it's other than the incoming, everything's pretty much status quo. We haven't opened up the visitation. We started our RSAP program, but hopefully we can start some religious services too by the end of the month. And in regards to the COVID vaccine, our nurses are getting trained by next week. Our nurses are getting trained to administer the vaccine. And shortly after that, we'll start working on vaccinating the inmates. It's going to be a lot more complicated than just doing the COVID testing that we did because we have to, of course, keep the housing units separate. We can only give to those that are willing to take it. And when the inmates take the vaccine, there's that 15 to 20 minute where they have to be under observation of medical staff, right? They have to sit on one side and take that thing. So, of course, it'll be a slower process to get it done, but we're committed to get it done. I'm not sure how long it will take. I guess once we do the first unit, we'll know more about the logistics and what we need to adapt to, make it work smoother. Again, this is the first time we'll be doing something like this. So.
Yeah.
But, our nurses are committed. We're committed to get it done. It's just going to, take time to vaccinate the whole, all the inmates that want to receive the vaccination.
And how many is that? What are you tracking with the numbers of inmates? And is it detainees too, Major, or just the inmates?
No. We want anybody that's in our custody at the time to give the vaccine, if they're willing to take it, we're willing to give it to them. Right now, our population is about 560 maybe, about, give or take. It fluctuates between that number. And obviously some may not want to take it due to medical concerns or just concerns about the vaccine itself, but we're trying to educate them and let them know, what we can about the vaccine. And hopefully, more inmates will take it and we'll just see once we start rolling it out. I think majority of them are going to take it. They want to also protect their family and protect themselves too. So especially when we start opening up visitation and stuff, I'm pretty sure they don't want their family to get sick.
Good point. Major, right now though, DOC is COVID free now?
Yes, sir. We don't have any COVID in our prison. We still have our isolation unit up here, post 7, for those that new arrestees that don't want to take the test. But majority of the inmates that are the ones that are coming in are taking the COVID vaccine. Our staff is administering it, and if it's negative, they're still put in an isolation area, just in case something develops later. After so much time there, then they might be moved to another part of the prison.
We had a comment or a question more. I'm not aware, but does DOC have a commissary?
No, sir. We do work on a request for proposal. It's with GSA, still GSA. Their target date, they were, as far as we were informed, was they were going to try to get it out by the end of March. Put it out for request for proposals, but as of yesterday, it wasn't out yet. We're following up with GSA to see when they expect to put it out for bid.
So it's not an emergency procurement?
No, sir. We're not gonna go emergency procurement. It's we got to go the right route for that.
Right on. What about contraband incidents?
Well, occasionally we still find some stuff thrown on our perimeter. Nothing real major, but Copenhagen, I guess, was the last one we found. Tobacco and cigarettes and lighters and stuff like that. But again, it's continuing. I mean, we still have to be on our toes because they're still going to try to smuggle in the contraband.
What have you guys been finding? So just the chewing tobacco, any meth, weed, pills?
Not that I can recall. Not in the last month or two. I cannot recall the ice and stuff, but there was a few tobacco, like I said, cigarettes. I'm not sure if I saw a cell phone in one of them. They tried to, throw in a cell phone.
Wow.
It just varies different times. I mean, at one point, even Doni Denancy was thrown in. So Um, they try to get whatever they can.
Donnie Nancy, what kind?
The little red jar, the red one.
All
They
right.
wonder how.
I know.
They wonder how.
So they don't right now. They're deprived, right, of anything
Yeah,
pica or what?
yeah. Life's hard. There's just no hot pepper. It's just tough.
That
Just
should be
tough.
you guys' deterrent because there's so much crime out here. DOC, Donny free. Don't do it, guys. If you like your pica, don't do the crime
Don't do
because
the
you'll do
crime.
the
Do something.
time. You'll do the time without the pica.
Right, right.
So there's nothing like because I remember you guys had busted one of your own guards bringing in like sriracha or something, right?
Yes, yes. That was a while back. He had sriracha sauce and some other stuff in there, but the main one that itself is not bad. I mean, the officers sometimes bring in their own stuff for their meals,
Yeah.
right? Then it was the tobacco products and
Yeah.
stuff like that is
Yeah.
not authorized.
Yeah, this was an officer who I believe is appealing his termination. Was
Yeah.
busted smuggling in like I don't know, crazy amount of chewing tobacco, and he's like, "Oh no, that's for my personal."
Yeah.
But there's no chewing tobacco at all allowed in the facility, whether you're a guard
No,
or the major or the director, right?
no, sir.
Yeah,
Tobacco products are not allowed.
right. And then he was also bringing in sriracha, which is okay if it's just for the guards.
Well, I mean, you can bring in you should, of course they have to bring in their own meals, right? For,
Yeah,
for them to eat. We don't feed them here. And so sometimes they do bring in their own Tabasco, their own sauce that go with it. That's not necessarily a problem. But of course, you start finding it if you find it in the inmates' personal property, and start showing up on the inmates when we don't have a commissary for it, and that becomes a problem.
have you guys ever busted any other like Dunny Denancy or Tabasco in the general pop?
Not recently, but we'll keep our eyes open.
Because that could actually be a deadly weapon, right? Is that in the hands of an inmate in an altercation, they could somehow put the Tabasco or the Donny Denancy into the eyes of
Yeah, I mean, yes, anything I mean, they're creative. Anything here can be a weapon, but yeah, things like that, probably can be used, for other ways other than just eating it.
right.
I haven't heard of any stories of it, but it's possible.
Right on. Let's just go back to the vaccinations, Major. So about 560 inmates and population in the house. But do you have an estimate? Because I know you said you guys are doing the education and the outreach for the vaccinations, and that your nurses have also been trained to administer the vaccines. But let me ask you, do you have like a ballpark figure of the 560? How many are already saying that, yeah, they want to get the shot?
When roughly, I think before when this first started a few months back, I think we were probably looking at over 400. Um, the nurses are being trained next week, not this week. The nurses are going to be trained next week on how to administer it, fill out the documents, and go through all those requirements. Um, and then I think right now they're doing a current survey this week, probably this week and next week, doing a survey. Getting the inmates to probably put in a sick call request that they want the COVID, and so we'll have a general idea. But I'm almost certain, yeah, at minimum, it'll probably be half the population, if not more, that would generally want the vaccine. But obviously there's going to be a few that, for whatever reasons, are not comfortable taking it.
What about the status of the memorandum of understanding with GBWIC, the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center?
So DOC made we reviewed the MOU and made some adjustments and some other recommendations, and it was given back to Guam Behavioral for their review. And so right now we're still in that phase of back and forth until we're able to finally work everything out. But Chris, even without that, at this point, we do have staff from Guam Behavioral that do come here on a daily basis to meet some of the clients here, some of the inmates. We do have a limited it's almost like telemedicine, but you're dealing with a psychologist. So we have that set up here. So if we don't need to transport them to Guam Behavioral, we can actually put them in front of a computer, and they can meet with the psychologists from Guam Behavioral, and we have our own staff here that are working in our mental health area unit, and so we are providing the services to them. And again, if they need more services, we do transport them to Guam Behavioral, where they can be seen up there in their area. There's been a few times where they have been committed to stay at Guam Behavioral. They've been either court committed or based on the doctor's recommendation. They've been housed there, and of course we send our officers with them and have to stay up there and monitor them while they're there. So,
Major, what about there was a bill, I want to say it was one of these like bipartisan bills. It was the vice speaker, and I want to say Senator Moylan, this was the one about the conversations between inmates, detainees, and their lawyers.
okay.
Did you guys have
Yes.
a position on that?
Yes, the bill. So right now, Chris, we have what we call our PayTel phone system,
Right.
and every inmate has an account, and they're allowed to call their family and even their attorney. Now, in the system, attorney numbers can be set to do not record, right? So that you have a private conversation. We're not allowed to listen to attorney client calls. So we have quite a few lists of attorney phone numbers that are in our system, that when an inmate calls that particular number, there is no recording of it. And so they're allowed to communicate with their attorney that way. The issue is that some of the inmates don't have money. They don't have family support, or they don't have a lot of money to put in their phone system. So how do you give them access to their attorney? And who pays for it? That's the next cost. Who should pay for those inmates who don't have the money to pay for their phone calls? And so this bill would take, so the government of Guam receives, not DOC, but the government receives 15% commission from the phone company that is operating our PayTel system. And the money goes into the general fund. So what this bill, I think, proposes to do is take that money and put it into a separate account that can be used to cover the cost of indigent inmates attorney phone calls, right? And so we support that. I mean, we all want to give access to the inmates on their attorneys. That's a constitutional right, and we don't want to interfere with that. And but somebody has to pay for it, because our phone system is a private company that operates it. So how do you best do that? And maybe taking this money and using it. I don't know how much these attorney calls, free calls will cost, but we ran a pilot program with the Public Defender's Office, alternate public defender, for 2 months, giving all the inmates that called a certain number there free access. And for 1 month, it was over $400 just for that, to call the alternate public defender. So, it might, cost a couple more. Of course, if we're going to do all attorneys, the bill starts off by talking about just those with no account, but then it goes into all inmates and detainees. So we need to figure out, are they intent to, every inmate and detainee, whether they have money or not in their account, should be entitled to the free phone calls. And again, that's just a matter of interpretation. We'll see how the bill goes. And is the commission, the government, the amount of money the government is receiving from this, would it be able to cover the entire cost if in the event all costs our attorneys are associated with, going to come out of this fund? So we'll just have to see how it goes and where the bill moves.
Let's talk a little bit about recidivism. Are you able to say offhand what the recidivism rate is at the prison?
No, I haven't looked at the numbers lately. I know this past year it probably went down due to the people not coming into the prison as much. But the recidivism, sir, can be a very tricky thing to figure out, because I don't believe there's a law on Guam what we constitute recidivism. But generally it's coming back to prison, right? If you're coming back for a new crime, within a certain time frame. I think usually it's within 3 years. You know, you're counted as recidivism. If that includes parole violation or probation violators, I'm not sure. But I think prior to this, our recidivism was pretty high, probably over 60%. And, you know, a lot of it probably is due to the drugs and stuff. And then we had a lot that come back for probation violation and parole violations and pretrial condition violation and all those other issues. Yeah. So it's probably over 60%, Chris, but I don't have the actual numbers in front of me.
Right. Well, just asking, I'm sure you know, because of the recent murder in Pneumatic, where, and we see it all the time when, you know, people get arrested for these crimes. It's like, oh, they got a record that's, you know, 5 feet long, or oh, they were on the one that gets me, and I know this is a courts thing, is when you have people committing felonies while on felony release. We've just seen so many of those. And then so with this murder in Pneumatic, you have Rudy Kanata and then this Joyner Sked lady, both very intimately familiar with the prison system. And frankly, no one's surprised when these people commit these crimes because they're like, oh, they're just bad, right? So on your end, when you see people go out and then back on the news, coming back in, how does it make you feel, and what can DOC do better to address this high recidivism rate?
Well, you know, sir, again, with the, our population is, like I said, almost 600, probably half of them are detainees. We don't have a lot of programs for detainees, again, simply because, you know, detainees have not gone through the criminal justice system. They're not convicted. We really have our staff program, and you know, it's tough because each of the prisoners are different. They have unique situations. A lot of them are drug uses, and one key to treating a lot of them, sir, on the drugs and stuff is their willingness to be treated. We can offer all kinds of programs. Again, right now, we don't really have that many programs at this point, but we're working on it. But even when we offer, there's a lot of factors of why someone comes back to prison. So it's just not one single issue. It could be, like I said, they're not willing to admit they have a drug problem. They're not willing to deal with this drug problem or whatever problem they have. And even if we did it in prison, sir, you know, the classes are 45, even their 45-day classes, it takes a lot more to change somebody's, you know, behavior and years of abuse and years of wrong thinking, you know, how they think and how they deal with other people. Some of them anger management, behavioral issues, drugs, job skills, you know, those are a host of different problems. And, you know, it's tough to put your finger on it. You know, you may be able to help one or two, and that's great. The other ones, sometimes it just takes them to grow up and they finally realize this is not the life for me. And they have to make that decision that I'm not going to do this anymore. And that's the hard part. How do you convince them that this is not the way to go? It's tough. I mean, really, there's not one answer to this whole problem.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're saying that we know it takes the programs, but they're not doing the programs, and then we have one RSAT that just fills up the. I mean, even before you even announce it, I mean, you can't really say that we are doing our part.
Well, again, like detainees, sir, we can't offer programs to detainees because they're not even convicted yet. They're not even convicted of a certain crime, so you don't really offer drug and those kind of programs to them because, you know, when they're doing these programs, they're not convicted. So anything they say in these programs might and could be used against them in court. So they have to be very careful when you offer programs to people who are not found guilty of anything yet. And then with detainees, you don't know how long they're going to be in jail. So even if you start a program, are they going to be able to complete the program? Because they could be released depending on which way their criminal trial goes or their case goes.
Right.
And so those are things you have to figure out. You know, sometimes programs in the community are best suited for drugs. The main problem here, I think, is drugs.
Right.
And so maybe more community programs. But again, if the inmate doesn't want to partake in it or doesn't want to take advantage of it or even make use of it, then again, it's up to them.
You're right. You're right. Good point, Major. Thank you for your time. I know we did a little bit earlier today, so I appreciate that.
No problem. No problem.
And take it easy. Have a good day.
Okay, you too, sir.
Okay, Major. Major Antone Aguon. We're going to take a quick break and come back with more of the link and the executive director of the Guam Election Commission next. Good morning.
The world of KUAM's multi-platform morning show, The Link, just got a little more delicious with Feed Me Fridays. Chris, Sabrina, Jason, and the rest of the morning crew will take some